Everyone. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to our Signworld webinar. And this will be an hour of question and answers. We have a full panel of owners varying from beginners to veterans here, and then I will let them all introduce themselves. How this webinar will go is each person will ask one question. We'll go in a round robin type way. And then if we get through those questions, we'll let a second round go through there. And then I will have the panel of owners introduce themselves. And we'll start with our newest owner, Mary Lauren Randall.
That's me. Hi. Mary Lauren Randall from City Beautiful Signs and Graphics in Orlando, Florida. I've been in business. We signed our contract 2 years ago. We've been open for about a year and a half. We have 2,500 square feet. We have 2 employees plus 2 owners that are working full time. Last year was our first full year, and we did 290 in business, and our projection for this year is about 500. Let's see what else. Our largest customer is currently a rebranding apartment complex we're working on right now. That was $104,000. That's a very large customer for us since we're so new. And my background, I was a flight attendant. So my background is just customer service. I was a flight attendant for 22 years. And I still am on the side. Actually, I still do that to make a little extra money while we're getting started. And my husband, was in file storage. He was a manager of a small business for a long time. So he had a lot of business operations experience. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary Lauren. We'll go Mike Riley.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Our company is Starfish Signs and Graphics. We're located in San Clemente in Southern California. We've been in business, my wife Laura and I operate the business together. We've been in business for 12 years. How large is our facility? We're at about 4,500 square feet. We have 5 employees, not all of whom are full-time. So we have the equivalent of about 4 FTEs plus Laura and myself. Our sales projection for this year, it's kind of hard to say. We're running at a pretty high level of book business so far this year, which is above where we had planned. But I think the number will be something like 1.5 to 1.8 million is what we'll end up targeting. Our biggest projects, recent projects, I'll just mention 3 that are in the works right now because I think they're kind of interesting. So one is Canon, the copier company. So it's 2 high-rise building top signs. And then we're doing something for the city of Costa Mesa. It's signage for a bicycle route. So it's 117 signs. And we're working with 2 credit unions that are rebranding 6 locations. And my background prior to Signworld, my training is biochemical engineering. So I mostly worked for multinational companies in pharmaceuticals and electronics.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And Pat, we'll go to you next.
I got to start by saying, Mike, your background is perfect for the sign industry.
Exactly.
Biomedical engineering. There you go. So thanks for having me. Patrick Amante with Tasman Sign and Graphics Solutions, located in the northwest portion of Houston, Texas. And we opened actually this month 10 years ago. So May 2014.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. I need to celebrate that.
Yeah.
So we're in our second location. We're in about 5,000 square feet of usable space, and about 40, I'm guessing about 4,400 of it is kind of production, and about 600 square feet, just a couple of offices and a break room. There's 5 of us total right now, 4 employees plus myself. I am looking to hire a project manager. The forecast for this year is just over $1 million in sales. We've got our business is broken up into a bunch of different kind of customers, what I call kind of flow business day to day, and then we do some decent sized projects with general contractors. And speaking of that, we've got a project going right now that's probably going to be about $250,000 overall, but we've finished just finished the stadium part of that for a high school, which was about a $70,000 large signs on the back of the stadium, as well as some internal signage in the property. And then they're rebuilding the whole school, so it's going in phases. We've done part of the interior for ADA, and then we've got some other more ADA coming, and some ground signs there as well. And my background was 15 years with General Electric in the electrical business, both distribution and manufacturing, and then about 10 years in what was a real estate startup, which of course is, perfectly aligned for getting in the sign business as well. So that's our story.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat. And I apologize. I think I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Sheree Ewing, and I am moderating the call today because Jean Borum usually does this, but we let her go on vacation every once in a while. So you're stuck with me. But Jack, I'll have you introduce yourself as a panelist next.
What's your role at Signworld, Sheree?
Oh, it changes every day. No, I'm just kidding. I do all of the events and marketing and communication. So if you haven't already received many emails from me, you probably will in the near future.
And organizing and coordinating the great convention we just had this last weekend. So.
Yes. Yeah, that's fun. I love doing that.
So I'm Jack Werner. I joined Signworld back in 1995 as a Signworld operation. Back then we were a little bit different. We were a retail location without a digital printer, just a cut vinyl business, using yellow pages for marketing and going after local business. We've really changed a lot since then. I started in 1,100 square feet with one employee. I ended up 10 years later in 5,000 square feet, a staff of 11 doing 1.3 million in sales. I then joined Ken Kin, our founder and former president, at the corporate office, kind of a partnership operation to learn his end of the business. Finished buying him out 10 years ago. I'm now the president of Signworld. My largest customer was a regional developer for Subway. You would think once the Subway location is open, they're done, but Subway changes every single sign inside and out every 4 to 5 years. And that was a $250,000 per year customer that came back year after year after year. Prior to Signworld, I ran a wholesale food distribution business. So like everybody else, none of us had sign experience. When I answer questions today, if it goes to my experience running an operation, I'll speak from that perspective. When it goes more to talking about the general population of Signworld, I'll speak from that. If it goes more to training and policy of Signworld, I'll speak from that perspective.
All right, thanks, Jack. Do you want me to take the questions?
Sure, why don't you?
Okay. So like I said, I think a few people have hopped on since, but we're gonna go in a round robin fashion. Everyone will ask one question, please. And then because we do have a few people on, so once we finish going through the round, we will make another round if there's time. So we'll start with Creed Larson. If you want to take yourself off mute, tell us where you're from and go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hi, great to be with you guys. Hope you can hear me okay. I am in the Salt Lake City area and yeah, excited to learn a little bit more here. It's great to chat with you guys. Probably my first question, as each of you were talking about the different sort of expectations on sales and that kind of stuff, to get a feel for kind of what that entails as it kind of flows through the business. Do you guys do you know what your kind of EBITDA is or was for the previous year, to kind of give a sense for earnings versus earnings after all the stuff, but before taxes and amortization, depreciation, all that stuff.
Let's go, Mike. Do you want to start with you?
Yeah, I don't have exact numbers, but last year we did about 1.3 million, and we'd have to separate out owner's compensation, from the other expenses. But if we look at what we call owner's discretionary income, and we were at about 23% on that last year.
Thanks, Mike. How about Patrick?
So similar scenario where I'm on a S corp, so I pay myself through the business partially and take some distributions. But from a owner's discretionary standpoint, we were at just under 20%, and that had one of our biggest customers, one of our biggest segments, I should say, is commercial real estate, where a lot of it is managing installs and removals. And so we're marking up some labor on that. So that's low margin business, but high dollars. So that drags our margin down a little bit more than some of the other folks that are doing more traditional signage stuff. But it's bumping up against 20% for gross profit.
Net profit.
Sorry, net, yes. I call the other one gross margin. Sorry.
And Mary Lauren, we'll go to you next.
Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that. My husband and I have our own areas, and he's operations and numbers, and so I don't have that answer at this time.
All right, thank you. And Jack?
Realize in the first year or two or three, as you're at lower volume and ramping up, you have some fixed expenses that have to be taken care of. So the number is probably in the teens, then growing to the 20% range, 25%. We have Signworld Owners running lean and successful at over 30%. But this is an industry standard 25% net profit business. $1 million sign machine at the owner about 250.
Thank you, Jack. Brad says he's on the road for the next 30 minutes, so we'll come back to you, Brad. Let's go to Eric next. If you want to take yourself off mute and tell us where you're from.
Am I on mute?
Oh, no, you're not on mute. Sorry. Just to have it.
All right. I'll tell you a little bit about me, but I don't really have any questions. I want to kind of absorb everybody. So I spent some time with Jack already and been asking a lot of questions that are probably going to come up. But I live in New York or New Jersey. I'm exploring getting involved with Signworld. What else can I tell you? I've been in the clothing industry my whole career, a good 40 years approximately, and time for a change. So that's what I'm here for, and looking to buy an existing business out there. And just absorbing everything. What else could I tell you? Just listening to this and listening to the questions that are being asked, which are so far similar to what I've asked. What else would you like to know?
We can come back to you if you have a question come along. We'll go to the others and see what they have to say and see what that serves for questions for you.
Yeah, if
Okay.
anything pops up, Eric, we'll come back to you. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mike Lee, if you want to take yourself off mute, tell us where you're from and ask your question.
Sure. As you said, my name is Mike Lee. I'm in Santa Cruz County on the central coast of California, just south of San Francisco on the coast. My background is in tech. So I've spent the last 20 years or so working for software firms building cybersecurity products. My story is very similar to a lot of people looking at franchises. I've spent 20 plus years doing this kind of work, and I'm looking for something new. The corporate world has run its course for me for the most part in my head, right? And I'm looking at what my alternatives are. So you guys sound like you're pretty successful in your first year or a couple years of business, right? Can you talk to me about what you guys did to get off the ground in terms of sales and marketing, where you're sourcing your deals from, actually, both early on and then where you're sourcing deals from now?
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. I was also gonna restate your question that way. So Mary Lauren, how did you start out getting leads in marketing, and then where are you at now and what are you doing differently?
So initially, the most important thing is website. Get the website going as quickly as possible. You got to try to generate, get on Google, and get some of that SEO going. So the very first thing we did was all internet. And last year we largely depended on internet. There's also a lot of just marketing. You need to do the chambers and the BNIs and all that kind of stuff. We didn't do that as much the first year, which we probably should have. So we're catching up this year. We're adding that to it. But it's just getting out there and talking to people. We've made a lot of connections just by walking up to people. We've made a lot of connections with other sign companies just by walking up when they're installing. And so it's just getting out there and talking to people and getting your internet SEO going, and some pay-per-click ads, that kind of thing.
Great. Patrick?
So I would fall into the camp of being more do what I say, not what I did, for a number of reasons. But we actually have done very little marketing over the years, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I started my business in Houston, where I was in sales and marketing and business development for a couple different companies, and so starting out we had some decent customer base. But I will say, and Mary Lauren said this, BNI, I started going to BNI as at the suggestion of Jack, like 3 months before we even signed. When I was still going through the process, I started going to BNI, and that was huge for me. I got connected with some real estate folks, and our first order besides the banner was a 2-story building makeover, because we got to meet the broker that wanted to give us referrals. So BNI has been a huge thing for us. I was in it for 10 years. I finally stepped away just because I was busy doing a lot of other things. But BNI networking, personal networking, all that is very good for this business. Personal referrals, I find, are the best. And ironically, I thought I was going to be all internet, and I've just never gone down that path because we've fortunately been fairly busy. Not to say I still want to grow a lot. So, yeah, for us, it was a lot of BNI networking and personal relationships that have got us where we were going.
Thanks, Patrick. Mike, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, so for us, the sales and marketing process has really been a journey. I mentioned I'm an engineer, so my background is, I don't talk to people, I don't interact with people. That's not the thing I do. And so that's been a big adjustment to, in a small business, of course, your primary responsibilities are sales, and then marketing supports that. So I would say for us, it's really been an evolution and a lot of experimenting. Starting out, our customers initially came from my prior network. So we focused on like commercial office buildings and projects associated with that. And then, we've continued to evolve. We've really kind of remade our model a number of times. And right now, we're fortunate to be in the position where most of our new business is customer referrals. So that's necessitated a different kind of sales and marketing. But we've been able to accelerate our growth over the last few years with some of the changes. So I'm not sure if I answered the specific question. There was a little bit of networking up front, relying on my previous network to get started, and then lots of evolution and experimentation along the way.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Jack, anything to add to that?
A couple of thoughts. While we have some people that are career salespeople, honestly, 90% of our owners have never done sales marketing. It's a very consultative role. We're looking for a customer who already has a need. We're saying, I can manage your project. We're not looking to go cold calling, knocking on doors. It's networking in the community, making relationships with those people that have businesses and need signs. It's Can you reaching out to the database you already have? And then it's the internet. And then over time, it becomes more and more repeat customers, referrals. So Pat or Mike, for the years you've been in business, what percentage of business is now repeat business? Pat?
We have a ton, you know, it's repeat business, same customers, different products or projects, but it's probably, I probably need to pull that, but I mean, I can just think of two of our biggest customers have been with us the whole time. So, and it's out of close to $1 million, it's just those two customers are about 40% of our business. And so repeat for us is probably about 70% of our business. And then there's the big projects.
Okay. Mike, what percentage for you?
Yeah, same number for me. We're at 70% repeat, 30% new customers.
And Mary Lauren, at just a year and a half, what do you think your number is?
It's pretty small. A lot of when you're first starting out, you're doing a lot of these one-offs of people who are just opening a business and have never bought a sign before, that kind of stuff. You haven't quite made the connections yet. We have started to make more connections with companies that do multiple jobs. We actually got an inquiry for one today from a restaurant that we did last year, and they needed a new sign. So for a different property, but so it is starting to grow. It's a very small number at this point, but that's just because I'm a year and a half in. It will be, I'm sure it will be better. It's very cool that all of a sudden, like I said, that email today, all of a sudden we're like, oh, hey, we haven't talked to them in 10 months, but that's fantastic.
Great.
Sherry,
Yes.
I just asked a question along these lines.
Yeah, sure.
You all mentioned websites. Do you guys anybody do the, excuse me, social media? Do you use that as a tool as well, or is it just purely like a website?
Mary Lauren, do you use social media as part of marketing?
Well, Signworld has some preferred partners that are that do the websites and all that kind of stuff. I do use one of the preferred partners. They do the websites and social media and things like that. We don't do any social media advertising, but we do. They do have a LinkedIn page and an Instagram page and a Facebook page. So we do just some basic social media.
All right. Mike, how about you? Do you guys use social media for marketing?
We use social media kind of just as, you know, to build our brand presence. I wouldn't say it's much more than that. We undertook a process recently to figure out how our customers find us, and it's very interesting. They don't come from social media and they don't come from our website. The primary, at least, link to us is our Google business profile, which is interesting. But I think it's because a lot of them are referrals, and then they search for us, find our phone number, and call us.
Yeah. Pat, you guys use social media?
We do, and not to the extent of some folks, but we have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, and I think I know we have Google, but I don't handle that, so I'm not too sure about how often we're posting on those. We try and keep up, add new pictures for new projects. That's pretty much how we use social media and our website. And I think the one thing I would say about those is, even though we don't get a lot of actual leads from them, they're all the things that help justify the business, give people confidence that you're real because they see the work you've done because you post them on those. So they're definitely a support to our business, maybe not the primary source of new customers.
And Jack,
Thank you.
anything to add?
The beauty of Signworld is we give you the flexibility for you to implement it the way you want to do it. We've got the preferred partners that can help you. You can do other things. We got a lot of training on what can be effective, but then how you implement in the end is your choice.
All right, thanks, Eric, for that question. Next we'll go to Amar. If you want to take yourself off mute, tell us where you're from and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Anwar Abdulghani, and I'm on the west side of Chicago, in the suburbs. I'm a data scientist. I've been in tech for about 8, 10 years, and I'm looking forward to get into incrementally and gradually into entrepreneurship and running my own business. So I'm here to just learn about your journey and how much time that I need to get involved in the business early on, and if it's possible to become a semi-absentee owner early on.
Awesome. Patrick, how did you get into the business? How long did it take? Kind of why Signworld, and do you see yourself becoming an absentee owner?
I'm already jealous of Amar because he's got the right attitude coming in, which
Thank you.
I was not smart enough to think that way, but I have certainly changed my thinking and I'm working towards it. So I had wanted to do something where I was making something. I didn't even know what it was. I just wanted, I felt like I wanted, big boys toys kind of thing where I was, I had equipment and I could make things. And when I left the previous position, I was working with a recruiter who introduced me to Signworld. And I thought, what an interesting model, because I had never run my own business, but there was the core. It's very much like a franchise in the sense that you get a whole package, you get systems, you get backup, you get a network. You get a lot of the things that are very, very hard to do as a new business owner, but you don't have that royalty or a big rule book to follow. So it very much spoke to what I was looking for. The core support and structure that I needed, but the freedom also to do what I wanted to do. So since I've actually done the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, and that they embarrassed me too about being more of an owner operator than a absentee owner. And if you go in with that mentality, I think it's going to be a lot easier to do. I tried to do everything. I did this cash, so I was trying to fund it through the business, and I probably didn't set aside enough capital to hire as early as I should have. But yes, I hired one general manager and we did really well for a while, and I was starting to be able to pull back and do some more strategic stuff. And then he had some personal issues and ended up leaving the business. And now I'm looking for another person that can fill those shoes as a general manager. The folks I know that have hired a general manager and they've kept them for a long time are very, very much in the realm that you're talking about, Amar. So it's definitely possible. And quite frankly, I think we should all strive for it.
Thanks, Patrick. Mike, we'll go to you.
Yeah, if I understood Mara's question correctly, it sounded like you were asking about being a part-time owner early on.
Correct.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
long, he's asking how long it would take him to become kind of an absentee owner there.
Okay, so
And if it's actually possible to be a absentee owner, like, is it realistic?
Well, we all will talk about our own experience, and each of us is different, but my perspective on being an absentee owner early on is no, don't try it. But that's my perspective, right? We have different time frame and a different, my wife and I would like to get the business into a position to sell. So there's sort of competing objectives. One is to get it so that it runs without us. The other is, of course, to maximize the sales and top line and bottom line before we get there to get the highest price. So I put a lot of time in the business, but I have a time horizon in mind, which is the end of 2025. So I've kind of got a different approach. And also, again, we all have a different model. I don't believe our team is big enough that general manager isn't the critical position to me. To me, it's having fully competent people in each area, in design and fabrication and installation and project management, that they can operate autonomously. And then my job of sort of supervising and coordinating that is pretty easy.
Thank you, Mike. And Mary Lauren, a year and a half in, what are your thoughts?
Well, initially coming in as a semi-absentee owner is not possible. That's in my opinion. You got 2 to 3 years, probably 2 years of just grinding it out every day, pounding the pavement, answering the emails, talking to people, and learning, because there's so much to learn about signs. There's a lot more to signs than you would imagine. So for those first few years, I don't think it's possible. Now, as time goes on, you always strive to, as Jack says, work on the business and not in the business. And so as time goes on, and you'll be able to hire people that can run it and do more of the day to day. So as time goes on, I think it's possible. I think you always kind of have to have your finger on the pulse of the business in some ways, but I think that's true of every business. But for the first few years, to be honest, I would not say that you could be a semi absentee owner.
And Jack, what are your thoughts?
Before I answer, I'm going to introduce a couple of slideshows that are going to go on in the background. There's no audio to them, but you'll be able to watch while you're having conversation. The first one goes to what is a sign? Not only what can we make with the original equipment, to what can we make with the outsourced partners that we have, to some things that you wouldn't even consider as a sign to become part of our portfolio. Actually, that's the second slideshow. The first slideshow shows some of our operations inside and out, so you can see what operations look like, facilities. The third slideshow goes to our wall of fame, showing some of the larger projects. So those will go on in just a minute. You know, Mar, we have a couple of people that have started Signworld as an absentee owner, but not by hiring a general manager, by hiring a friend or a family member that they could trust. Because it takes someone that has a heart in the business to do it, because each project is unique and different and custom. We have many owners that have gone on to become more absentee or take lots and lots of vacations. But honestly, most people that are in an absentee business do it because they want it as an investment, but they don't enjoy the business. I'd say most Signworlders stay active in the business because it is a fun business. Every project is unique and different. Every project you're doing, you're having to recreate the wheel. Mike and Pat, after 10 and 12 years, are still having to figure each project out. And that's what keeps it engaging. That's what keeps it there. So starting off, you either need a family member or relative or a friend that you can trust. Over time, you can build it into something else if you want that. But again, sometimes people say they want to do it because they want to have a bigger business. And honestly, our largest operation did 38 million in revenue last year. So scalability, you can do it with just one business.
Thanks, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you want to start your slideshows, and then I'll go to the next person here. Scott McGee, if you want to take yourself off mute, tell us where you're from, and go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, this is Scott McGee from Austin, Texas. I was lucky to be able to attend the recent annual conference for Signworld that was in Dallas, last weekend. So that was super beneficial for myself to talk to lots of owners, be in the seminars, visit one of the Signworld, locations in Dallas and see equipment vendors. So that helped put me in a good spot. And so for myself, by trade, I'm a chief operating officer for a food manufacturer and food retailer. So I've opened probably like 60 retailer restaurants in my career. So I'm comfortable from that standpoint. I have a pretty good network of sign needing, businesses. So my question for the group would be, knowing what you know now, what's the piece of advice that you wish was given to you at startup that you just did not know that would help you, have either started up smoother, maybe saved money, gained customers? Like, what's that aha moment that you've had?
Mike, we'll start with you.
Yeah, good question. I don't know that there was any aha moment, because I felt like kind of what Jack was saying, it's continuous learning, continuous experimenting, continuous evolution. I would say that some of the changes we've made recently the short answer is we do a lot more sales support before we have the job, which in some ways is, counter to, what we're sometimes advised to do. But I've learned that for the bigger projects that we go after, there's a lot more of that up front. And, I guess that's the one piece of, I don't know if I'd call it advice, just the observation I've had.
Thank you, Mike. And Patrick?
Yeah, I would say, again, I'll go back to the fact that I was kind of bootstrapping from doing, starting up with cash and not putting aside some other money, but I took way too long to hire my third employee. Well, I should say second employee, but third person. So it was me and one other, and every time, we would get an order, then we had to design it, then we had to make it, then we had to go install it. And if it took two people to install or two people to make, we were stopping everything else. So that getting that third employee for me back 10 years ago was a big game changer for us, because it's like the business could continue instead of stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. So, and, yeah, so I mean, for me, and I think the model has changed somewhat. I'm sure Jack can attest to this, but I feel like, starting with two is probably good, but very soon thereafter, you probably want to add a person, just strictly because there's so many different tasks and specialties that need to occur. Design, production, installation, and then you put all the business ownership stuff on that. So the aha moment for me is I should have hired more quickly for the next person. And then subsequent to that, when I've hired more, you notice how it impacts your business as well. So it's good to be thinking about that before you even open your doors.
Thank you, Patrick. And Mary Lauren?
For me, the biggest thing takeaway we have is to just follow the path that Signworld lines up, because there's a lot of times where you want to reinvent the wheel. Somebody will tell you to do something, or and your thought is, or a good example is an open house. Signworld says to do an open house. A lot of people go, it's a lot of money. I don't know if I really want to do it. We felt that way, but we did it anyway. We got so many new contacts from it. It worked out really well. So just follow the path. You can always do things your own way, of course, but don't discount. These are people that know a lot and have done it many, many times. So don't discount what they say. So really just follow the Signworld path, and it kind of all falls in place.
Thank you, Mary Lauren. And Jack, any thoughts to add?
There's a few things. Knowing that, some of them mentioned, knowing that each staff member you have can only generate so much product and so much revenue. Knowing you want to get to a bigger number, you got to be quicker on hiring and having the staff there to accommodate it, because otherwise you get yourself contained, as Pat talked about. Knowing that the internet costs money, but yet you have to consider an investment in getting business as opposed to an expense. Hiring and delegating the work off to people is important instead of working in the business. As Mary Lauren said, most Signworld would say if I had to do it over again, I would have followed the Signworld plan a little bit closer rather than getting off the rails and doing it this way and that way. The system works well. Tweak it, but don't change it just because you can.
Thank you, Jack. All right, we'll go to Andrew next. If you want to take yourself off mute, tell us where you're from and ask your question.
Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Halliburton and I'm in the northern Utah area. A little bit about my background, it seems to be a common theme. I come from tech, and a lot of sentiments that Mike had and a few others have had of either burnout or just, getting away from the corporate world. I've kind of been toying between two different questions the whole time. So, and y'all have kind of answered a little bit about it, but the biggest question I have is, especially in the first year, the first couple of years, how do you balance working in the business versus on the business, right? The networking, the BNI, those type of networking opportunities with, actually doing the work.
Great question. Mary Lauren, being the newest in the business, how do you differentiate working on the business and in the business? How
Well,
do you
the first year, frankly, you're doing it all. Now we have a production manager that we hired initially. He has got 20 plus years experience, but we don't do any of the production. He does it. And he's taught us a lot about the physical signs. So we don't actually go out there and make it. But it's just you're drinking from the fire hose this first couple of years, and you're doing it all. But so you're going to the networking meetings, you're learning how to quote, you're learning how to install, learning who can do the installations. So we don't do the physical making of the signs. A lot of those signs I don't know how to make myself. My husband doesn't either, but we have hired the right people to do that. And of course, we have vendors for things that we can't do in-house. But so the answer is kind of for the first year, you're the number one guy. I mean, it's all you. You have to learn almost how to do it all. Now, as time goes on, and I think getting into the second and third year, I started working more in the business. So my husband's able to pull away a little bit from the sales side and do more of the work on the business. And as time goes on, it will add, get better and better every year. But that first year, you're just drinking from the fire hose. You just don't know what you don't know.
Thanks, Mary Lauren. Mike, how about you?
Well, one of my favorite expressions, which we've all heard, is that, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And we try to, if I just take one small consequence of that, what we try to do, we're in the custom sign business. We tell our employees the only way to learn is by making mistakes. We don't want to make the same one twice. So the one simple technique which has really benefited us is we do a root cause investigation with any customer issue, quality issue, safety issue, and insist that, okay, there has to be some outcome that we do differently. We're not going to we don't accept saying, okay, we'll just try harder next time. So it's kind of a Kaizen approach, right? It's lots of little improvements that add up over time. And that's not exactly working on the business in the sense of business strategy and marketing strategy and so forth, but it is a continuous improvement process.
Thank you, Mike. Patrick?
So Andrew, two things I would say is one, like for me, BNI, I was committed. I mean, if you know anything about BNI, they take attendance and you're supposed to be there every week. But I literally didn't miss a meeting for 5 years. And I just put it on the calendar. I made sure that that's where I was Wednesday mornings. So that kind of helped on the networking side of things. The other side though, and what to me, one of the most interesting things about the Signworld model is that you have business owners everywhere from salespeople to former CEOs to, fabricators of kind of machine shop type people. So the thing I think that helps the most is to determine what part of the business you want to play in and then hire and or outsource for those other things. So beyond the actual making and installation and design of the signs, for me, I wanted no part of accounting or payroll or, as much of that stuff I wanted. So I outsourced for sure the accounting part. And I think anyone who does their own payroll instead of using a company is crazy, but it's just, those are the things that I can't stand, the actual operations. So it's picking what you want, because like you heard, some of us say is, some were in sales, others weren't. If that's what you want to do, then do it and hire and or outsource for those other things and vice versa. If you're, more of an operations person and you actually want to run the machines, a former owner that I know, that's exactly what he did, and he had someone else doing his sales and marketing stuff. So that's kind of the way I would approach it.
Thanks, Patrick. And Jack?
You know, over 99% of people going into business open up without a vision of where they want the business to be in the end. So our very first topic in new owner training is exit strategy planning. How do I build this for where I want to end up at the end? And working towards that. And then putting benchmarks along the way of success points that you got to be at certain levels to be there. So while you're working in the business, you've got to be working on the business. You got to set aside a certain amount of time by the week, by the month, by the year, to be high value time where I'm actually focused on growing the business to where I want it to be. So I'm taking myself out of being in the weeds and really planning, strategizing. Because the day you sell a business, one thing you're not selling is you. So the business has to run because of what you build, not because of what you're doing. You're excited about selling the first sign. You get excited about selling the big project. Then you got to become excited about the fact you build processes, that you've got projects going through your operation, ordered by customers you haven't even met, because you build systems to take care of it. That's what you're really trying to accomplish. So it's working in the business while you're getting ready to work on the business.
Thanks, Jack. Brad, I'm not sure if you're out of the car yet. Are you ready to ask a question?
Hi, I am. Thank you. This is Brad Hudson. I'm in the West Michigan market. And my question is, what approach have you used to get leads and secure business that's outside of your local market?
All right. Mike, how do you do business outside of your market? How do they find you?
So, I think understanding, I mentioned before about how customers find us, but understanding who your best customer is, and then figuring out how they came to us. So our best customer is really quite specific. It's commercial real estate brokers for the large firms like JLL, CBRE, and so forth. So their project managers are the guys that are our best customers and our source of repeat business. So we always talk to them about projects that are going on. They're well connected with companies moving into the area, people relocating their corporate headquarters. They all have coworkers who are in need of these things. So I guess just to summarize, like I say, it's finding who your best customer is and then talk to them about how to find more of them.
All right, Mary Lauren.
Well, since we haven't been open very long, we do most of our business locally. We have been starting to make connections with some property managers that have multiple properties throughout the states. So that's moving on as we start to do more things for some of them. We've had a few instances where we did a new location of a large brand. There's a bank, that kind of type of things. And when they had the big wigs come in, they were able to talk to them about different things. We weren't able to go, unfortunately, but so we have a connection there because they really liked a lot of the signage. So we're working on developing a relationship with them so that maybe they could do certain things as a package for other locations as well. We do some installs or just some wholesale work for some people that other sign companies from other states that have a large customer, and they will use us. So we have that back in the backwards. So we do some work for some larger national companies in that way, but that is their customer, not ours. But since you're just starting, it's just about making connections. So every person you talk to is one step closer to another project in any area, whether it's local or nationwide.
Thanks, Mary Lauren. Patrick?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we've sought after out of town business, but it's more of the scenario where it comes to you one way or another. And some of that, a lot of that has to do with, like Mike said, for us, we do a lot of commercial real estate. So we do work all over the state for either their clients that are out of town, or those individuals move from one company to another. So in real estate, that's huge, both the brokerage side and the property management side. Another kind of similar example, but not really out of town, but we do business for property managers, and they go, this one in particular that I'm thinking of works for CBRE, and they've now gone to their 5th building that they manage, and we've held on to each of the prior 4 buildings because we, continually try and strive to give them good customer service. And those are the kind of things that make you feel really good, because you move on, that person moves on, they're bringing you with them, but they're leaving behind and leaving your contact information for the person that replaced them. But the other interesting thing, and being part of Signworld, is when you do have those out of town projects, maybe you can make all the signs and then coordinate. And the first people any of us call is you look for a Signworld person in wherever you're doing an installation, because truly it's not to say we're all perfect, but you'd want to deal with someone that you have a connection with, and that a little bit about the kind of business they are. So we get requests all the time to install for companies from around the Signworld network. We quoted one yesterday. So that's where you can get a lot of business, both from out of town calling you, and you having business call others to partner with to get a project done. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Patrick. And Jack?
If you think about it, a couple of things. One, in many businesses, there's a disconnect from one customer to the next. In our world, there is no disconnect, because while the restaurant might only need 1 sign, they've got a landlord they know that needs 10. That landlord has a tenant that needs 100, and that tenant has a supplier needs 1,000. So while you may not know those big repeatable customers, if you go by the premise no customer's a dead end, and you try and arrange to get an introduction to somebody else from your current customer, somebody that already believes in you, that's how you leverage and go bigger and bigger. Because while we give you a territory, we're not limiting you to the territory. You can go after regional national customers. So it's in asking the customer, who are they connected to? Who else do they know? One of my customers was Dave & Buster's. I took care of them worldwide, making game graphics for them. They were based in Dallas, a couple of 1,000 miles away from my operation, but getting to know the local guy and asking questions upstream, you get to bigger and bigger customers. Then through, as Mike mentioned, through your website, having out of state, out of city, companies contact you to do a local operation, know that they've got operations elsewhere. So you reach out. So we're really trying to teach you how to become a regional and national player as opposed to a local player.
Thank you, Jack. We have time probably for 1, maybe 2 more questions. So if you want to raise your hand, I can call on you and you can ask your question. Or if you take yourself off mute first. Oh, Eric, there we go. Eric, go ahead and ask your question.
Jack, you brought up, talking about operating out of your own territory, so to speak, and operating nationally. Let's say the Dave & Buster's, and they're based in Dallas, and you had somebody already there. Does it create a conflict amongst people? They see that you're doing business with somebody in their own backyard, even though you're 500 miles away?
A couple of things. One, there are so many customers out there, and you can only have handfuls of customers. You can only handle so many customers and projects. Chances you bumping into somebody else that's with the same customer is pretty unlikely. When I had a product that went to another market, I always asked someone locally, "This isn't a customer of yours, is it?" And they'd say, "I know who they are, but I've never met them." So we really try and respect each other's relationship. We all want to go after different types of customers, and yet Um, so that limits it. Also, I was able to take care of Dave & Buster's because they had 65 locations. I think over almost every Signworld owner in their system has done a project for Amazon, because who could handle Amazon totally? Pat, have you done an Amazon project?
We have just,
Mike, have you done an Amazon project?
We have not.
I thought you had. I'm sorry. I thought you had. Okay. Mary Lauren, have you done an Amazon project?
Not yet, but we just got a bid for one.
Okay. So you're going to find that there's customers that you're going to want on a regional basis as opposed to on a national basis. For my Subway, I took care of just Orange County, 200 locations. I didn't want any more than that because I don't want to be too deep with any one customer, because if you're too deep with any one customer, you can't live with them and can't live without them. So you need to have yourself somewhat diverse as well.
Okay. All right. The reason my question is based off of my industry, in the clothing industry, we would have a lot of reps all over the country. And if we went into a territory, even though that rep might not be doing business with that customer, it always created problems for people,
Part of the reason, Eric,
So-
it doesn't become an issue is we've all bought it into the idea of this pay it forward family, that we really want each other's help more than we want to take away a customer. We'll take away a customer from the street, but we're not here to take away a customer from each other.
I'll add to that. I mean, to me, one of the funniest things about the sign industry, and this goes well beyond Signworld, is many of your competitors are your suppliers and or you partner with on a project. You sub out certain things, or they're your vendor for certain items because they have different equipment. And a perfect example of that here in Houston is I've got a buddy up north of me that's Universal Signs that has trucks, and he does all my electrical installations. I do all of his ADA and architectural stuff because I've got a router and a laser, and we focus on different things. And it's weird that way, because literally you could run up against each other quoting on the exact same project, but it is so rare. It's happened to me like twice in 10 years, ironically. I mean, I've been surprised how little we run into each other. So, and the whole thing, even about the territory, I literally couldn't care if someone was right next door to me, because for us anyway, it's not a retail business where you're coming in, where all our customers are not, coming to us. We're going to them. We're just manufacturing in a location. So truly, it's not been an issue at all for me. I laugh about how the competition versus collaboration goes on in this industry overall.
And I agree that one thing we had a really hard time grasping that before we started, because it didn't really make sense if you didn't have a territory. Just because we've never been in a business like this business is extremely collaborative, especially with the Signworld owners, but really with everybody. We have connections with other sign companies in town. When we were first starting, we talked to them, and they invited us in to show us their shop, and we'll still contact them on a regular basis for something, or we'll even contact somebody that's not a Signworld company and ask for advice. And the ones that are friendly, which is 99% of them, it's very strange how collaborative this is. And I think possibly a big part of that is there's so many different kinds of signs. So people specialize in so many different things, and there's so many projects out there. A lot of the other customers, that some of the others sign companies, maybe they're too busy and they've got a 4-week wait, and so they can't do it. And they'll say, I recommend you call us or anybody else, and we will do the same thing with them. It's very strange if you're not involved to really understand how collaborative this industry is as a whole.
And we are about 1 minute past the hour, but would the panel mind answering one last question in the chat? You can
Happy
say
to do it.
okay. This one's is from Amar. He said, question to Mike, how was your transition like moving from individual contributor engineer to a CEO, wearing all the hats, doing marketing, sales, business development, etc.? What would be helpful or what would you do differently if you were to start today?
Well, I did start out my technical career as an individual contributor, but when I retired, I was handling, I was in a global operations role, so I had a bunch of factories around the world. So I had an opportunity to learn some techniques related to the operations side of the business. So that part was fine. I guess what I would say is that everything I learned, I think I'm not overstating it, everything I learned working for big companies about how to lead and motivate and manage a team was not applicable to what I do in a small business. You know, I really had to become a completely different manager to build and operate and have an effective team. And so that was the area that I needed to learn some new skills. And by that, I guess, just so I don't leave it at that, you know, it's not hierarchical. You don't have depth of 10 people behind each job. You don't have, you know, an HR and legal department advising about how you want to do things. It's really much more about the culture that you want to create and how you go about doing that.
Thank you, Mike. And I think Patrick and Mary Lauren can still answer this. So Patrick, what was your transition like, and is there anything different? Would you do anything different if you were to start today?
I probably should have thought of that, but I gotta, you know, kind of echo what Mike said, especially my days at General Electric, where literally when you say, well, I'm gonna call the HR people to ask them about this, or I'm gonna call the, you know, accounting people and that, and then you realize you're calling them and it's your phone ringing all the time. So, but the other piece that is amazing, when you have 4 or 5 people, when one person's gone, it's a big challenge. And I will tell you, one of the things that because of the challenges for that, I make sure that I'm either hiring very broad-based employees that can do multiple things. So they're a designer, production person, and they know how to install. That's what I look for now. I don't look for someone who is a designer, an installer, a production person. I look for the people that are very rounded utility players, because when one person's gone, if you don't have someone, or if you don't at least have them cross-trained, you basically stopped the presses. So that's probably one of the biggest lessons, and where I have changed is hiring those utility players.
Thanks, Patrick. And Mary Lauren, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think we were fortunate that a lot of the owners come from a lot of the owners come from a corporate background. And my husband, who is our COO here, did not come from a corporate background. He was in corporate for about 2 years. Before that, he was a manager of a small company with just 13 employees. And the only person above him was the owner, who was a semi-absentee. He came in a couple hours a day. So he knew how to run a small business. He already knew how to do the HR, and he knew how to do a lot of that stuff that a lot of these guys and gals from the corporate world had never had experience, because they always had people to do that for them. So that was actually an advantage for us. And then, you know, I just came from a customer service background, so I've tried to turn that into learning more about sales through just providing excellent customer service. So I don't know if anything I would have done differently. You know, we're still learning every day. So that's it.
Great, thank you. And then Jack, anything to add? And if you want to close us out here.
Just the last thought, that the reason why we've all joined Signworld is we didn't come with everything. But we bought in this collaborative, pay it forward family where we're all willing to help each other as a way to pay back for the help they've given us. It's really a unique organization. We hope this hour has been helpful for you. We'll have another webinar coming up in a couple of weeks. Dick, Dan, Sheree, Jeannie, and I can give you information on that. Our next live Discovery Day is on Friday, June 7th, Orange County, California. You can learn an awful lot. We're here to help you figure out your journey and hope the best for all of you. Thanks for joining us.